Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of GSP TV. Thanks again for tuning in, and I know that you're going to be blessed by what we have to share with you today. This week we're going to be talking about the power of encouragement. We'll also be talking with Pastor Mark Hopkins, who is the Executive Vice President of Hillsong International Leadership College in Sydney, Australia. Of course, part of Hillsong Church. He's been in leadership and ministry for over 25 years, so you're going to be blessed by what he has to say today. Before we get into this week's episode, remember that we encourage viewer feedback and questions, so make sure to find us on Facebook or Twitter, and remember to use the GSP TV hashtag. Our church of the week this week is House of Grace in Cochrane, Georgia. They are currently running the Good Samaritan program, so a big shout out to all you folks down at the House of Grace. Our testimonial this week comes to us from a church member in Monan First Baptist Church who has been enjoying our Good Samaritan program DVD series. They said that I have enough in my savings to cover my emergency fund, which makes me feel good. Also, I do look for sales and clip coupons to help stretch our dollar a little further. God has given me everything I have, and as long as I am a good steward, I will be okay. I must always remember that before every purchase I make. That's fantastic feedback from the church member there, enjoying the Good Samaritan program and being impacted by the great financial teachings that they are getting. So it really sounds that they are on the right track as they continue to save and be a good steward with God's money. This brings us into our practical teaching today on encouragement and the power of encouragement. Let me read this great passage of scripture to you. 1 Samuel 30 verse 1 to 6. It says, "Now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken captive the woman and those who were there, from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but carried them away and went their way. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was, burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's two wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, had been taken captive. Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God." Other translations say that David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. I mean, here it was, every man and every family was against David. They were going to kill him. They were going to stone him. There was nobody to encourage David or to strengthen David. So what did David do? He turned to God and he allowed God to strengthen him and encourage him. And it's kind of sad that there wasn't one person there to encourage David, but he encouraged himself in the Lord. And you know, sometimes it's a bit like that in life. We look around and where are the people who are there to encourage us? And I think it's a powerful thing that we be people who encourage others and pour into others. Think of someone who has made the most impact on your life. Who has proved the most inspirational to you? I would bet for the most part here, it was someone who encouraged you to do more, who believed in you, who saw something great in you, a teacher, a parent, a friend, a family member or spouse who believed in you and encouraged you. I always think at school, the teachers that I most remember were either those that were the most positive or those that were the most critical. And you know what? The ones that I enjoyed going to the most, the classes that I enjoyed the most, were those that were most positive, those that encouraged me. You know, the word encouragement means to put strength into another or to put courage into another. Hebrews 13 verse 3 said, "But encourage one another daily, as long as you call it today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness." I believe that if we don't encourage, our hearts can actually become hard, just like the Bible says that our hearts can be hardened by deceitfulness. That's why it says encourage today while it is called today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for a week. Encourage somebody today. Proverbs 11 verse 25 says, the generous soul will be made rich, and he who waters will also be watered himself. See, I believe this, as you encourage others, as you pour water on other people, your own soul is made rich and your own soul is refreshed and watered and encouraged. So let me give you some quick tips on how to be an encourager. Number one is look. Look for people doing things well. Don't look for people doing things incorrectly so that you can berate them and discourage them and put them down. Look for people doing things well. In an episode of the famous TV show The Simpsons, Homer says to his son Bart, he says, Bart, having never received any words of encouragement myself, I'm not sure how they're supposed to sound, but here goes, I believe in you. What a sad statement that Homer had to make to Bart, basically saying that he'd never been encouraged. He didn't really know how to, but he gave it a shot. And you know, encouragement doesn't have to be grandiose and like, oh wow, this amazing, literal genius of an encouraging word. It could just start as something as simple, hey, I love your smile, or, you know, great job with that. Or maybe you could start with an item of clothing that they're wearing. Hey, that's a great dress, that color looks great on you. Or, hey, I like your hair today, as long as, of course, they have hair. And, you know, whatever you can think of that's going to bring encouragement. And just make sure it's not just flattery, that you're just not throwing out comments and you don't really mean it. Make sure that your encouragement is genuine. See, my children are never going to grow up in a home where they are deprived of encouragement. I was sitting with a group of adults just the other day, a group of parents, and one of the main themes that came across was that they never had encouragement when they were growing up, so that they have made it a goal that they are always going to be encouraging and create a positive atmosphere in their homes. And I always strive, and my wife always strives to do the same thing. One of the things that I do with my oldest daughter is I tell her, and I go through, just like David Letterman's got his top 10, I have my top 10 things that I love about her, and I tell them to her each night before we go to bed. They might be, I love the way that she laughs, or I love the way that she gives hugs, or whatever it may be. I always create a top 10 things that I love about her before she goes to bed. If you've ever seen that movie Despicable Me, I love it. It's one of my favorite movies, but there is a very kind of sad scene in that movie where the young Mr. Gru is talking to his mum. He's having a flashback of his growing up and of his childhood. And the dialogue goes like this. The young Gru goes, "Look, Mum, I drew a picture of me landing on the moon." His mum responds, "Eh." In the next scene, young Gru says, "Look, Mum, I made a prototype of a rocket out of macaroni." Gru's mum responds, "Eh." Then young Gru goes, "Look, Mum, I built a real rocket based on the macaroni prototype." And Gru's mum looks over, and there's the rocket, and then the rocket powers up and takes off. She looks at him and just goes, "Eh." In another scene, young Gru goes, "Mum, someday I'm going to go to the moon." And Gru's mum goes, "I'm afraid you're too late, son. NASA isn't sending the monkeys anymore." I kind of find that that's really sad, but some people have grown up in that environment. If you grow up in that environment, you don't have to reproduce that in your life. You can reproduce encouragement in your kids and in your children, and you can reproduce encouragement in your own life by encouraging yourself in the Lord. Number 2 is locate. And this basically means to locate the appropriate method and the appropriate time to give that encouragement. This means that you have planned for the encouragement and that there is an actual purpose to it. So should the encouragement be in private? Should it be in public in front of a lot of other people so that they can see you giving out that encouragement? You know, you have to make a decision. What's the best way to give out the encouragement? How are you going to give that encouragement? So make sure that the encouragement is genuine, that if it's done in private, that it's done in a genuine way. encouragement is powerful and doesn't always have to be verbal. You could send an email, you could send a card, you could even, in this day and age, a Facebook message or a Twitter if they're on Twitter. And make sure that you look at different people to encourage. Don't just encourage the same person all the time. Look for people that you can encourage, especially look for people who may be feeling a little bit down, maybe people who are going through a little bit of struggle. One word from you can just lighten up their day. Number 3 is lavish. This means lavish on the praise, but be specific. You know, you can say, hey, you're awesome, and that's nice, but after a while, if all you do is say you're awesome and oh, you're the best, that's a good start. But how about, hey, you did an awesome job with the way that you handled that project, or I just, you know, maybe encourage your wife with, I just love the way that you look after our children. You just do such a great job at bringing them up, and I'm so glad that I married you. So make your praise specific, but lavish on the praise. I once had a guy in Bible college who used to call me awesome in the Word. And this was because that I had said one Bible verse off by heart in a Bible college lecture. Now, I thought to myself, I'm really not awesome in the Word. But he encouraged me, and every time he saw me, he said, awesome in the Word. In fact, it kind of got to a point where if I'd see him on the Bible college campus, I would kind of change my direction, the way that I was walking, and start walking in his direction, because I wanted to hear him say awesome in the Word, because I craved encouragement. And that made me realize the power of encouragement and the power of the spoken word to bring life into somebody. The Bible says that death and life is in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat the fruit of it. See, in your words, you have the capacity and the power to speak life or to speak death. So let's choose our words carefully and speak life. And just so you know, the end of that story was really great, because over the next 18 months, because of that guy's encouragement and calling me awesome in the Word, I memorized 14 books of the New Testament off by heart, simply because of one word of encouragement from one guy. And number 4 is lifestyle. This means don't just make it a one-off thing that you do once a year. Make it a lifestyle. Make it once a week, even better, make it once a day. And you know, with anything in life, encouragement gets better and better with practice. That's why I encourage you to encourage people every single day of the week. Look for people to encourage. Plan your encouragement, prepare your encouragement, and look some way, somehow, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or email or in person, that you are encouraging somebody once a day. You know the saying that some people light up a room just by leaving it. Don't be that person that, like, wow, the room is a brighter place just because they've kind of left it because they're so negative. Be the person that lights up a room when you come into it, that people gravitate towards you because you speak words of life and hope and encouragement. So let's just finish this practical teaching with this powerful quote that I love. It goes, flatter me and I may not believe you. Criticize me and I may not like you. Ignore me and I may not forgive you. But encourage me and I will not forget you. What a powerful quote. Encourage somebody today. Breathe life into their life and see the amazing things that God will do in and through your life. Well, I hope you were blessed by that practical teaching. Right after this, we're going to have an interview with Pastor Mark Hopkins, all the way from Sydney, Australia, Hillsong Church. I can't wait. Sit tight. We're going to be right back. Hey everybody, and welcome back to GSP TV. I'm so excited that we have Pastor Mark Hopkins, all the way from Sydney, Australia, Hillsong Church. And Mark, you are the Executive Vice President of Hillsong Leadership College. One of the great churches, not just in Australia, but worldwide. So it's great to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here.
We've got some questions for you. Mm-hmm. Firstly, how do you feel that the Leadership College, you know, you've been a pastor at Hillsong Church for over 20 years. Leadership College probably been going about the same amount of time. Tell me, what are some of the keys that has made it such a great leadership training center that has produced so many incredible leaders over the years? What has really been the key?
the real key for us has been that we've taken not just knowledge, but we've taken knowledge and put it into practice. So it's got to be practical.
Yeah.
So we've got great theology, great leadership principles, great Bible teaching, but also then we've got to say, okay, how does this work? How do we make that work in a real environment, whether it's in church planning, running churches, music, and dramatic arts, whatever area of church life it is. We want to make sure that everything we do, our teaching, always lines up with a practical outcome that someone can take, put into practice, and make it work.
Now, you've personally been a pastor for over 25 years.
That's true.
And for the most part, you've been all that time at Hillsong Church and with the Leadership College, which is pretty phenomenal when you think a lot of, church pastors are, obviously the burnout rate is pretty high, and a lot of people jump ships and jump around churches. What has been the key for you for longevity in ministry and just in general longevity in life? Because you're married, you've got two beautiful children.
That's
so why don't you share with us,
Sure. Look, it's what we teach in college.
Yeah.
It's about life is actually a journey. What we've got to do is take ourselves on the journey of life and enjoy it. So you've got to keep on figuring out how to keep making life simple, getting rid of the bitterness. People let us down. People do things all the time that may not be the best things in terms of the way you get treated or whatever. Not necessarily from a not from a leadership perspective, but when you're dealing with people sometimes hurt. People sometimes say things. People do things, whatever. But if you take that on board and allow it to become bitter, then that's when you burn out. That's when you lose it. So the real issue is keep fun. Keep the fun there. Keep finding the fun. There's so much to be joyful about. Jesus said, "I come to give you life, and life in all its abundance." And it's pretty easy, I think, if you keep a sweet spirit, to keep the joy, the fun in everything that you do. And that's what I've done.
No, that's great. And so what would be advice if maybe a younger person is out there who's young in the ministry or looking to aspire to be in the ministry, feel like they've got the call of God upon their life? What would be one thing that you would really encourage them to do if they're feeling a little bit frustrated or wondering what's the next step?
I think all young people feel frustrated from time to time. I think everybody feels frustrated. Look, God's not in a hurry, and I think that's the thing that we keep teaching everyone all the time. God's never in a hurry. God is always on time, 100% on time. So He will do it in His time. So you've got to keep a sweet spirit. You've got to keep on keeping on. Paul puts it this way. He says, "Don't grow weary of doing good." And I think that has got to be a key. If you just make a choice that you're going to keep on keeping on, you're going to keep a sweet spirit, you're going to keep on loving Jesus, keep putting Him first, and remember that everything we do is actually about Jesus and it's about the kingdom.
I like that.
And the funny part about that is because often we've got this mindset that, if we're going to be in real ministry, it's all about, some glory time or whatever. And that's certainly there. But a lot of it's just hard work. You read the Gospels, you read the book of Acts, it's just hard work. But hard work can be a real lot of fun if you actually have the right attitude, the right spirit, and the right heart. You just got to make it fun.
Oh, that's great. Now, of all of your years of being involved in the leadership...
You're making me sound old, my years.
Experience, great experience. Yeah, as a great mentor and leader.
That's right, I'm still doing
But what would be a moment where you would say that was one of the most satisfying moments of your time at either Hillsong Church or in the Leadership College there?
Look, right now, for me, being on the journey for 20 years in the college side, one of the great things is to actually come across people who have been through college who are really successful in life and in church.
Wow.
And so for me, it just makes me, it just reminds me of what we're all about, because we lay a foundation, others build on it. So we get in there, we give great principles, great concepts, and great Bible knowledge, the whole deal. But then people have got to take it and apply it. So for me, now 20 years on, and I come across people that have taken what we've talked about, and they say to me, "Mark, when you talked about this stuff, I still remember some of these things that we talked about in college, and I put them into practice, and it's working for us." That makes me proud. That makes me satisfied.
Oh, it's fantastic. How many students do you have enrolled each year at the Leadership College?
We have 1,200 students from all over the world, 60 different nationalities in college, 400 odd Americans at the moment, not odd Americans. Probably shouldn't say that. 400 Americans at the moment. And it's just a fantastic experience. You get people melting together. We've got people who actually find life partners from all over the world, and we've got church planning going on afterwards, all sorts of great things.
And how do you help or instruct a lot of these college students who may be facing financial difficulty? I'm sure you get a lot of it, because especially when the college tuition fees are due, and people who may be struggling, what kind of advice do you give, and can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
Sure. Look, we made a decision a long time ago that we wanted people to actually be financially secure as they came through college. And so even before they come, we asked them, how are you planning to actually pay for this? What, do you have savings? How are you planning to do this? And then as they go through the course, one of the things that we notice is when something is beginning to go wrong in someone's life, it normally shows up in their finances.
Right.
And so the first thing we do is look at, okay, well, what are the root causes? What's going on, first of all, in their life? Why are your finances getting in a mess? And we begin to give good counsel about that. We don't allow them to go into debt with us. We discourage debt unless it's something that's a pre-planned, low interest sort of thing through family or some other system that they've got back home. But we don't encourage debt. We don't encourage them to take that on board, because they're going to pay it for the rest of their life, and they're going to pay the interest and the interest and the interest. So we've got job opportunities we put together. We create an entrepreneurial aspect to what we do.
That's great.
So we've got them out looking for jobs, but not only that, but doing job creation, and so that students are actually employing other students. So we create this sort of ability to be able to fund themselves to some degree, but they have to come with finance first to be able to get on that journey of being able to do that.
So what kind of financial principles do you live or swear by?
For me personally? Look, I think, let's take the first thing. For me, generosity is a key. I think if you've got a generous spirit, that's the first port of call. Then you'll adjust your priorities. Then you'll actually decide what you will spend, what you won't spend. Second thing is that out of that priority, then you decide, I'm not going to spend what I don't have. So if I don't have it, I can't spend it. So, you know, they're the sort of priorities I put in place. Obviously, there are things that have to be spent and have to be prioritised in terms of mortgages and so on. But the other things that we have in life, you know, I've learned in life that a lot of things just aren't necessary. And in fact, a lot of the stuff that we think that we want, you know, I've got a 19-year-old son who tends to want everything right now. But I've learned in life that a lot of things we want, when you actually think about it, we don't really need. And that money can go to better use in other areas in our own lives, or not only that, but in the lives of other people. So it gives us an opportunity, as Paul says, to have you know, seed for food and seed to sow, you know, bread for food, seed to sow. So we've got this opportunity to not just eat everything and take a hold of all our income and just spend it before we have it, but to actually put it to good hard work. That's what I want.
Yeah, I like that. And so how would people, if they're interested in Hillsong International Leadership College, how would they find out more about it and possibly get signed up? What would the process be, especially if you're overseas and you're thinking, okay, how do I get a visa? And I'm sure you have a website with all that information. Why don't you tell us?
Well, if you go to hillsong.com or hillsongcollege.com, you'll find all the information. We make it really simple on there. There's a big spot where you can find apply now. We can get all the information. We have a representative here in America, in our New York Hillsong Church, Josh Climbs, and he can be in contact with anyone who wants to have more information and so on. The easiest way would just be to email college@hillsong.com, and we can answer any question. We can put you in touch with Josh over here in the United States, or we can find a way for you to actually get the answers you need.
Fantastic. Now, what is something that a verse or a core message of your life that you really live by and like really?
I love this question.
You love this question?
Look, Ephesians 3:20. He is able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond all I could ever ask and hope and think. And when I stop and think about that, I've meditated on that probably for the last, probably 15, 20 years. Most of my life, that verse hit me, because you know, sometimes in our life we just are not prepared to believe God that He would take us and do something with us, and He's able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond all I can ever ask, hope, or think. So there's a part of that where I actually got to ask, I've actually got to hope, and I've actually got to think about things. So there's my part to play. It's not just sitting back and, okay, God, do your thing. I've actually got to get involved. I've got to actually make the choices. I've got to make the decisions, change the attitudes, deal with the stuff. But when I actually do it in the bigger picture of He is able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond. So when I do my part, He goes beyond. He just overflows.
That's great.
And that's been one of my one of the verses that has kept me going all the days of my life. And you know, when you think about Miz, you asked me before, how do you keep going and how do you keep longevity? He's able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond. So in the dark times, because there are dark times, stuff happens in life, he's able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond. You remind yourself. In the great times, you remember he's able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond.
Fantastic. I love that. Now, in your travels in America, have you achieved anything off your bucket list? And is there something on your bucket list, maybe just one thing off your bucket list that you've yet to do that you really want to do?
Well, the one thing that I did do this time was I went on the biggest ship in the world through cruise. We went on a vacation, and we went on the largest ship in the entire world for 7 days, and we had a great time. That was both scary, because you know, you don't know whether or not you're going to get seasick or whatever, but it was just a dream. So for me, that was just a great experience. It was fantastic from a family perspective. This whole time that I'm actually in America right now has actually been, it's been a goal for the last 6 years. We've been planning for it and structuring for it. In the middle of that, we actually had another child. So 4 years ago we had another child. So originally 6 years ago, the goal was to go to a whole lot of other places. But when you have a 4-year-old, it changes the dynamic somewhat.
Sure does.
So we readjusted for that, but it's been fantastic. We've had a great time. So this whole trip has been part of our bucket list.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I just want to appreciate your time with us today. Thank you so much for coming in and your busy schedule here in America. And hope that if you're ever again in town that you'll drop in and see us again. But it's been wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much, Pastor Mark Hopkins from Hillsong Church in Australia. And we're going to be right back after this. Wow, what another incredible interview that was. Every week I am so blessed by the gems of wisdom that people have to share as they come on this program. I pray that you are really blessed by that. I know I certainly was. What an incredible inspiration Pastor Mark Hopkins is. Now it's time for a money tip. It's so important to keep track of your financial goals and keep them visible. This way, once you start achieving your goals, you'll be encouraged to keep on track and to keep pushing until you reach your goals. Whether you create a dream board with pictures of your goals, or whether you keep a list with you at all times, or somewhere around your house have a list or a journal, just do something so that you can stay encouraged and stay on track. It's so important that with anything to do with your finances and really anything to do in life. This just isn't a money tip, it's a life tip. To have goals, to keep regular tracking of your goals, and to make sure that you stay on task to achieve all the things that you know God has for your life. Well, as always, we encourage you to send us feedback through a Facebook or Twitter or through our website. I so enjoyed being with you again this week, and I pray that we'll see you again next week on another fantastic episode of GSP TV. God bless you, and see you again.